Hey, welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge, and today we have the Beatles Get Back. This is the brand new, just released in 2021, December, I believe. I picked this just because I've been wanting to see it for a while, and I didn't want it to randomly come up 3 years from now. I wanted to watch it. It was something I cared about. Yeah, it was released in December. It says it's one season. It is a series. It is 3 episodes. I know yesterday I said that I would watch the entire thing, all 3 episodes. I figured it's no problem. It's 3 whole episodes of a documentary series. I couldn't do it because I have other things to do in the course of a day, and each episode is like 2.5 hours long. It's 3 movies worth, Peter Jackson movies. This is the guy who directed the Lord of the Rings trilogy, the Hobbit trilogy. Yeah, so yes, it's the Hobbit is one tiny book, and he expanded it into 3 huge movies, as people often complain. Well, this could have been a documentary, maybe, that could have been just 2.5 hours on its own, but that kind of would not have done the material justice. Now, I say this with only 1 episode in. Uh, this is obviously not for everybody. If you're not a Beatles fan, if you don't know who the Beatles are, you don't care who the Beatles are, this is going to have no interest to you. If you don't have any interest in music or band dynamics, let's just say, this is not going to be of any interest to you. But for Beatles fans, this is a must watch. This is a reason to get Disney Plus. I have friends who actually got Disney Plus just for this. And this is the very first thing they watched when they knew it was coming. It's a necessary watch. It is. I told myself I was going to sit down and watch it, just sit there, focus on it, watch it. But I realized because I had so little time in the day that I wasn't going to do all 3 episodes. It would have been nearly 8 hours, 7 hours and 50 minutes total between the 3 episodes is how long it would have taken. It's a day's work. Yeah, I don't get paid to do this yet. Unless you want to throw money at me, just let me know, and I'll be happy to take it, I guess. Um, so when I did one, I realized, okay, I got other stuff to do. So I put it on in the background. It did distract me from getting pretty much anything done for the most part. But this is also the reason why it's not just here's a documentary, here's somebody narrating in a British accent, more than likely, or Peter Jackson narrating in a New Zealand accent. What's happening with the Beatles? It could have done that, but I mean, there's been plenty of Beatles documentaries over the years. There's Beatles movies where they were acting as the Beatles in different, you know, comedic experiences, as bands often did. It seemed like, well, not often, but the Beatles did it, the Monkees did it, um, you know, stuff like that. They've had their own non-documentary movies in the past. If you don't know that already, for a lot of you who know who the Beatles are and care about this, it's not like you're going to rely on me to recommend you see it. I mean, if it is, well, thank you for coming. Thank you for stopping by. I'm just going to tell you right now, yes, you're going to want to watch this because you can watch this from a number of different ways. It is a lot of noodling. Let's just say there's a lot of the band. Hold on, I'm going to stop here for a second and just tell you this is really about the last final weeks of the Beatles. The documentary starts out with a sort of a summary of where the Beatles came from, uh, with just images, video, and text on the screen. There is no narration. There's no, well, Ringo is feeling this, and then John and Paul, they came up with this song, there's none of that. There's nobody giving an opinion. This is literally you sitting in the room, which is many a Beatles fans' greatest dream. I know if I would have been sitting in this room just at the edge, like you see a number of different people are just sitting at the edge of the room, just watching this happen, I would have just spent the entire time just giddy or weeping. Um, I want to, when I die, I want to become a ghost. I want to travel through time, and I just want to go to all the important parts of history and just go to concerts, just see things being created. I want to see things being created. That's my afterlife wish. That's heaven to me. So, I would to be in this room. Now, at times, I mean, for anybody, for most people, this might be fairly boring just to watch the guys diddle around and try to work out and sort of butt heads at times. Very they like to be funny with each other. They pick on each other. They tease each other, and they do have a humorous outward personality. That's kind of what their charm was as they were coming up, especially in the UK and the United States, as they became the biggest, greatest band of all time. And that is not a slight. It's not just a throwaway description. They are the greatest band of all time. They're, regardless of what your opinion is of them, or if you have no opinion, I'm informing you right now. They are the greatest band of all time because of the influences they took in to create their music and the influences they have given to so many bands in every genre that is out there right now, whether they realize it or not. The Beatles is somewhere in the DNA of their music. It's impossible I'm pretty sure it's impossible to avoid that. Maybe Bjork, maybe, I don't know. She's got a whole different DNA. But so this basically is a sad story. This shows us almost week by week the final days of the band, and what they're working on is a special television show. The guys have not actually played together in years at this point. They had put out a few. They decided in 1966 with tons of crazy crap going on, which seems really familiar now because they spoke out on a number of topics that really pissed off some Americans, and they were burning records, and they were, well, it was John saying the band was bigger than the Beatles, essentially. And they had to field that question so many times. Every time they sat in front of the press to discuss anything, they always had to reiterate what they meant by that, or what John meant by that. And it just became so much that just people picketing and rioting and all sorts. They were beloved and they were hated so much. Those commies. That's what it became. Basically, when you're not a Christian, you're a commie, I guess. Whatever. But you see that, and that's all encapsulated in the first few minutes of the film, and then you just get dropped into this room where they're essentially, it's a recording space where they can just sit together rather than a cramped small space. They're sitting in a room that may presumably end up being a place where they're going to put on a live concert that would also be broadcast on television. It's sort of like a mystery surprise concert that they were working on, because they have not played because of that in years. Yeah, they've done movies, they've done albums like Sgt. Pepper and everything else, which allowed them to be super experimental, but didn't lend itself easily to a live performance in many cases. Especially with the background, the reverse masking, the back masking, and everything, all the different elements that went into their just enormous piece of music, with especially with Sgt. Pepper and the others, because they were so experimental. Even if they were going to do concerts and do tours and whatever else, it would have been really difficult to do half those songs without changing them drastically. Some of those songs are possible, but what is interesting about this is what people are going to really enjoy about this is you get to see the first bits of DNA of very famous songs. Cross the Universe, Get Back, obviously, because it's called Get Back. And that is just kind of the centerpiece song of, if you know the Beatles' history, you know where this leads, and you know literally where it leads, and the big kind of breakout performance of that song in that place. I'm not going to ruin it for you if you don't know where it's headed, but you get to see just them playing other people's songs, and you can see them just working on different versions of different things that just are pieces of things you would recognize, and old stuff as well, that you're just like, they haven't touched these songs in what feels like, probably, well, 3 or 4 years, almost. Well, 2 3 years. Yeah, because this is 1969. This is literally the beginning of 1969 as they are doing this. Oh, by the way, the reason why I'm doing this is uh, February 6th is the anniversary. Sorry, February 7th. Today's the 7th. Well, my brain's not working. February 7th is the anniversary of the day the Beatles first came to America. It's one. I was going to have to do one of the anniversaries, but it could have been the date that they broke up, which I think was April. But yeah, I wanted to watch it now. So this is the anniversary of the day that the Beatles first landed in America and just blew everything up. Basically, it was just insane. You can see plenty of other documentaries that go into much more detail about that, and also movies that show it from the fans' point of view, and just everything else. And then there's no actors in this, by the way. Well, except the band themselves, they've done some acting, but there's nobody playing Paul, John, Ringo, George. It's them, and this is them going. Oh, I mean, they're actually filming this. They filmed this in 1969. The original director, I gotta make sure I get his name in here properly. Michael Lindsay Hogg. He's the original director, and he basically was shooting all this stuff as sort of a documentary that would have sort of been incorporated into that live concert or been a sort of a companion piece to it, I guess. But it was never released. As far as I know, this is the first time that this in-studio footage has been compiled in any way. Like, I think there's more than 60 hours or more, I think. There's got to be more. It seems like not a lot, because this itself is 8 hours long. But they went through, Peter Jackson somehow grabbed the rights to this and was able to put it all together in a way that uses all the original audio and uses all the original film and marries it in a way that it doesn't slow down. It doesn't show as boring. Unless, again, I mean, yeah, some people might consider it boring because it's just people sitting around and talking and sometimes arguing and getting along great, having a laugh, and other times, yeah, they're not getting along at all. But it's. I'm not a musician, but I have a lot of friends who are musicians, and I've spent a lot of time. I've been in the studio when my friends have been recording albums. I've had plenty of practices. I've probably seen more sound checks than I've have concerts half the time. That I sound checks that I paid attention to that compared to the concerts. I used to help run a venue that had a lot of concerts and other venues that I helped out with, but. Yeah, this feels very familiar to me, and the joy I get in watching friends of mine just sort of hash these things out. Joy, just I don't know, just that I love the behind the scenes essence of these things, and this is the ultimate e-ticket, to use a Disney term, e-ticket to the Beatles, and. Yeah, everything you make a lot of. Like I said, there's no shortage of documentaries about the Beatles and what their last days were like, or what their entire career is like. But this shows you day by day, and it breaks it down. Like, you'll see everything that happens within a span of a day. Then they'll zoom out to a calendar and they'll check that off and go to the next day. And yeah, Yoko's there. Yoko Ono, wife of John Lennon. Linda Eastman of Eastman Kodak, who is eventually will be Paul's wife, and she's there taking pictures, ironically, with a camera, Eastman Kodak. Yeah, so it's it is. I want to say, imagine a British baking show. Like the Great British Bake Off or whatever it is, but with music. And it's them just throwing ingredients at each other every so often. Just how they address each other helps change the recipe every so often, now just a little bit here and there. And their attitudes are not the same. I mean, John and Paul are known as the songwriters, the main songwriters of the band, and they're brothers. But man, they were definitely brothers in the sense that they don't they butt heads. But there's some other people who I'm just glancing at the screen here just to see like stills from this, and the face on George Harrison as they're going about this, because half the time they're trying to work out music, and half the time the suits are trying to say, hey, why don't we try to have a concert in the desert of Libya, like along the edge of the sea in a stone ruins, and we can have a bunch of people there, we can take a boat. They're throwing out all these options, and they're like, I mean, this is technically going to be their first concert in many years and probably their last. They are very aware that this might be the only show they ever do, and especially with, on television, they may ever do. And so they're haggling over the location, they're haggling over the music. They're John's late all the time. He's sometimes not really learning the music. Paul's trying to direct everybody. He's trying to get everybody moving one direction or the other. George is like, whatever, just tell me what to do. And half the time, he's not happy. Ringo's very quiet a lot of the time. He's the elder of the entire group. None of these guys are even in their 30s yet, except for Ringo. And it's, it's, they're there's just so much drama here without it being calculated. There's none of this reality TV drama that you might be used to, like when they come back from the break, John says this to Paul, and Paul swears he's gonna, there's none of this like 10 minutes of exposition to tell you what's going to happen after the break or the next episode or anything else. Like I said earlier, how you can watch this in two different ways. If you don't read or you can't read, you can literally just sit back on your couch. If you want to get high, I don't care. It's up to you. Just sit there and just soak in the ambient sound. Put the headphones on if you can, and just soak in the music, the voices, and just listen to the creative process. If you know the Beatles, you love the Beatles, you can do this, and you'll understand what's going on, even if you don't understand everything with a British accent. For those of us who can't always understand what they're saying in a British accent, they do put subtitles at different points when they have their conversations. But yeah, it does help. It helps a lot. But there's other. I mean, if you're not looking at the screen, they give little notes here and there as to what's going on in respect to the creation of certain songs, like what Get Back originally was. I mean, you can see them trying to work out the lyrics to this and not really sure what it should be about. Like, is it nothing? They're working it out in real time, and there's little notes that show up on the screen every so often, and they compare it. They start realizing what's happening. There's a huge anti-racism, white supremacy kind of initiative in the UK that is saying, blacks go home, or Pakistanis, or even talking about Puerto Ricans coming to the United States. It's all sorts of racism is pushing back against anybody who isn't white, and Get Back very much became an anti-white supremacist type of song, which I didn't realize before. But I'm not the super fan, so don't beat me up on any of this, because I'm just getting what I can. I know some things, I don't know everything. I have friends who are super mega fans, and I wish I would have brought them in here to do this. But it's my show, so you get me. It's like I said, I can't say it enough that if you're a Beatles fan and you can and you have an appreciation for music and how it's created, this is a must see. This is an absolutely must see. If you're not into any of that stuff, this is not. Obviously, why would you? You wouldn't even watch it. You wouldn't be sitting 19 minutes into this watching me talk about it. So, who am I fooling? So yeah, that's all I gotta say, really. I'm gonna watch the next two episodes as soon as I can. I mean, look at this. I'll show you. The first episode, 2 hours and 37 minutes long. Second episode, 2 hours and 53 minutes long. And by the way, this is day 1 through 7, first week. 2 hours and 37 minutes long. If they didn't edit this down, I mean, honestly, you could have. They cut out, really boring parts, of course. But, I mean, there's footage that overlaps with each other. Yeah, they move things along. Because they're not. When you hear audio at times, it's not actually what you're seeing on the screen. It's just. They marry it in different ways. It's actually what they said. It's just not at the same time you're seeing the footage. So you'll understand when you see it. But second episode, days 8 through 16, 2 hours and 53 minutes. And part 3, days 17 through 22 is 2 hours and 18 minutes, the shortest one. And that is, good gravy, 7 hours and 50 minutes long. 22 days in the life of the Beatles. Yeah. So, love it for what it is. Musicians and fans of the Beatles. If you're under my age, probably you don't care. You wouldn't be watching me again, like I said. But anyway, I love it, and I can't wait to watch the rest of it. I think I will lay down and watch the next 2 parts on my couch and just soak it in. It needs to have that kind of attention paid to it. But yeah. So tomorrow is another one that I've picked specifically because I want to get to it, and I do want to wait for it to show up randomly 3 years from now. Sorry for anybody else who's asking for certain things. Yes, I know. But I am choosing Encanto. Yeah, the movie that came out in December in theaters and almost immediately came to Disney Plus. And I hear see all the memes, and I hear all the references, and yes, I haven't watched it yet. Yes, we're in February, and I still haven't seen it yet. And I was going to do it, but I was like, you know what, might as well make it part of my show, my series. So that's what we're going to watch tomorrow. Encanto, hopefully I'm not making that a really weird pronunciation. Encanto. So anyway, Encanto, whatever, is what we're watching next on the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. I'll see you back here tomorrow with that. Bye.